Welcome everybody back to the Patriot Pravda podcast. Rob, I have one question for you on this episode number 8.
What do you got for me?
How much money should Elon Musk invest in personal security?
I'd say quite a bit at this point.
Absolutely. Along with that, we'll discuss the heart of the Twitter dump issue. And do we think that the CIA had something to do with the Kennedy assassination?
Allegedly!
We'll see. And Rob, what do you have for us?
Hey, do you exercise very often?
Oh yeah, every now and then.
Did you know that that could possibly be racist?
Why am I not surprised? And also today we have a fan favorite, What Grinds Rob's Gears? And this one's going to be a doozy.
Oh boy. Welcome to Patriot Pravda.
Oh yeah.
I've been down on bended knee, talking to the man from Galilee. He spoke to me in a voice so sweet, I thought I heard the shuffle of angels' feet. He called my name when my heart stood still, when he said, man, go do my will.
All right, so we're back, and this is episode 8, just like I just said.
Yeah, welcome. Been
Yeah.
a little while.
Yeah, and I hope everybody had a great Christmas holiday.
And the Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year. Obviously, it's New Year's Eve today, but chances are I won't get this episode edited tonight because of the festivities.
Yep. We're supposed to be going into the going up to see some fireworks this evening.
Yeah, it'll be a good time, and we'll be hanging out together, us, our wives, and it'll be a good time.
Yep.
And so, to start off our episode today, I found this clip of a commercial that has just been incessantly given to me on YouTube. I just can't get away from it. I quite literally see this advertisement 4 or 5 times in maybe in a 30-minute period if I'm scrolling through videos on YouTube. You know, it either pops up in the middle of a video or it starts at the beginning or the end of a video.
Right.
And I just see it all the time. And it's from Alaskans for Better Elections. And it's trying to play down the issue with the ranked choice voting issues that we had over this last election. And so this is essentially the advertisement.
What's your top 3 favorite flavors of ice cream?
Mellow chocolate mint.
Would you guys say it's hard to rank things?
No! This is easy, I'm bored.
Ranked choice voting. Turns out it's not that complicated.
No, it's obviously scripted
Yeah.
for the kid.
Yeah, so there's this commercial where all these kids are sitting in front of this gentleman, and he asks the kids, he's like, "Oh, do you guys have a hard time ranking certain things? What's your favorite ice cream flavors?" He asked the little girl. And I couldn't make out what the little girl said for the first flavor. But obviously she says that, she said vanilla, chocolate, mint. And then, he's like, "Oh, is it hard ranking stuff?" Asking children. But the thing that gets me about this, what does this have to do with voting?
Yeah, it's oversimplified, obviously, but I mean, I don't even think those kids even know what ranking is. They're just listing their favorites.
Right.
I mean, and even if you gave the little girl, vanilla and chocolate mint or whatever it was, she'd want them both.
Right.
It's just not a fair comparison. And I mean, we're talking, okay, ice cream is good. Okay, you eat it. But when it comes to things like, voting,
Yeah.
there's nuances.
Yeah. As far as I'm concerned, voting shouldn't be as easy as picking your favorite ice cream flavor.
No, absolutely not.
So, this isn't, and this is where this is my gears grinding right now with this issue.
I can tell.
Is because, they said, "Oh, ranked choice voting. It's not as difficult as it may seem," or whatever.
But we've had to explain how ranked choice voting works on this program.
Yeah, and like the number one search thing around the time of the election was on Google was how does ranked choice voting work?
Yeah.
For Alaskans here locally. And the problem was because it wasn't explained very well.
On purpose.
Right before the issue. And when it was voted on initially, it wasn't explained very well either. And so it fooled a lot of people. A lot of people think, oh, this is a great idea. And then there's also a lot of ignorant people that weren't necessarily fooled, but they thought, oh, this is going to be great. This is going to be, this is going to give me more power
Yeah,
in my
more
vote.
options. Yeah, but it really, I mean, I suppose it gives you more options, but why? Why more options?
Well, but it's not a matter of more options. It's a matter of it does give them more power in their vote. It gives the low information voter, just like these kids in this example and of this, advertisement. The kids, they are low information. They won't be able to explain the nuances between the flavors of ice cream and what that really means to them. And if you ever see that video of the Breyers ice cream guy doing the ice cream test where he licks the little spoon and he's like,
Chocolate.
all right, and
Sweetness.
there's some sweetness coming. There's some vanilla notes at the front of my tongue, and a kid can't do that.
Right.
They just have sweetness. They don't know the intricacies of flavor or how the tongue works. But and same thing goes with voting. Like, you shouldn't oversimplify, or you shouldn't give more choices to the people to wash out their vote. And that's what's happening with ranked choice voting. It gives the low information voter, the person that's not going to do their research and, parse through all the information behind the candidates that are running and do good in-depth research to pick on someone who they most agree with. They're not going to do that. They're just going to see all these choices, and then they get one vote for each person. Mm-hmm. They just say, oh, I like this one more, and then I don't like this one as much, and put everybody along that scale.
Yeah, and if you look at the name of the organization, Alaskans for Better Elections, it's kind of like if you come against it in any way, we'll be like, well, how could you be against better elections?
Yeah, you don't want to make elections easier or better for other Alaskans? No,
Yeah.
I don't. I'm sorry, I don't.
Yeah, I think voting was easier. I make my choice, I make my research, I go down to the voting booth, I fill out my ballot, and I submit it.
Yeah, the reason why we have all the issues in politics that we have today is because they've oversimplified the issue of voting. And this isn't just the last 5 years thing or the last 10 years thing. This is the last century of voting in the United States has continually become easier and easier and easier. And it was something that initially was given to men who were landowners, people that had a stake in the game and the success of the country.
Right.
And now it's been given to everybody. Where we have in California is the extreme on the opposite end, where they're just letting people who aren't even citizens, they want to let people who aren't citizens vote in our elections.
Yeah. And I've kind of been a proponent of you need to be doing something for this country, to be able to vote. Maybe seem a little strict.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously there's people who are disabled and different things like that can't really do anything. And I think they should have a right to vote. But at the same time, it's kind of like, and I think women should be able to vote.
Yeah.
I'm not, again, for males only. That's not what I'm after here. But I'm saying, you ever watch the movie, I think it's called Starship Troopers?
Yeah.
The only way you could vote in that society was if you did a term of service in the military.
Yeah. And that's how it is in some other countries in the world. I know in South Korea, I don't think it's necessarily tied to their voting, but I know it's mandatory for all able-bodied citizens of that country to serve 2 years in military. And Israel has a similar.
Right. But that's also
idea.
because they have a low amount of people. They have a low population, I think. But
In Israel's case, yes.
yeah. So, it's just one of those things where it's just another tactic of the left.
Yeah, it's to convolute the voting system. So, because what they
It
can
gets
do,
bogged down, especially with mail-in voting. It gets bogged
Yeah.
down really bad in the mud.
yeah, and these same people, Alaskans for Better Elections, were putting out advertisements during the voting season about how we have to wait for those mail-in ballots because there's so many military members here in Alaska. And being a former military member and voting while overseas, if those military members are voting at the correct times and submitting their paperwork in time and mailing things out in time, you don't have to wait.
Right.
There's time limits and time windows that
Or
you have to turn those things in before
The counting.
the counting,
deadline.
so it can be counted. We shouldn't have to be waiting for these ballots to come in. So don't try to play my buttons of being a veteran and tell me, hey, you gotta feel bad for our veterans. You gotta make sure that our veterans can vote too.
Yeah. And then they're like, well, we've got all these surrounding, Alaska's a huge state. It's got a lot of different villages out in the middle of nowhere, and they have the right to vote too. So, you got to get those voting machines out there, and we got to wait for those to be counted and all that stuff. Well, it's like, start the process earlier.
Yeah, instead of it's the day of voting. It's election day, not election month, not election week. It's election day.
Yeah.
And I don't care how big the state is or how big the country is. As the government, you should be smart enough and be able to plan ahead enough. If I can plan ahead enough for it, you can plan ahead enough for it. I mean, you take enough of my tax dollars anyway, you can go ahead and make arrangements to make that happen in time.
For sure.
But again, back to the crux of the issue, this advertisement, it's just been brainwashing people because they know people are unhappy with how the ranked choice voting happened here in Alaska. They know, and that's why it's people like me who are upset with the voting system, conservatives that are upset with what happened here in Alaska. And so they're pushing this advertisement out to those people on, it's like a morphine drip in a hospital. They're continuously pressing this issue, trying to convince you that ranked choice voting wasn't the problem. They're trying to say, see, it's not that hard. It's not that difficult.
You're dumber than kids.
Right.
That's kind of like what they're doing.
Yeah, and I've been insulted by this issue because voting shouldn't be easy. You shouldn't be able to walk in there. It's not like choosing a candy bar at a store or choosing a drink from the cooler at the gas station. You should know who you're voting for prior to getting to that location, and you should be doing your research. You have to have a stake in the game. I'm tired of, and people wonder why. And the thing is, I say people wonder why, because when I say that, I'm talking to conservatives that are also lazy, that want voting to be easy. I'm not just yelling at the liberal. I'm yelling at the lazy conservative that doesn't know what they're doing and doesn't do their due diligence either. The lazy conservative that sits at home and doesn't do their research, that just listens to Fox News or just listens to Daily Wire. They may be good. They may have a good source and they may give you some good information at times, but you actually need to dig and do your research. So I'm telling everyone, unless you want the country to continue to go the route that it's going and things to continue to get worse when it comes to elections, get off your lazy tuchus and actually do some research. Mm-hmm. And that's the bottom line for me.
Got it off? Got it off your chest?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
Well, moving on. We've got some other things to touch on today that we had touched in the intro.
Yes, absolutely.
The Twitter files.
Yeah. So about the Twitter files, we found out that in all these drops, it became very clear and apparent, and the receipts were left out there for people to see, that the FBI was meddling in the election and meddling in the bans, the shadow bans and things that were going on at Twitter. Mm-hmm. We found out through these Twitter dumps that the FBI was paying Twitter for their time, the time spent on banning certain people from the platform.
Yeah, and going to meetings with them and things of that nature, yeah. And what was the total? I think I know the total.
Yeah, the total.
It'll blow your mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
$3.5 million of taxpayer money.
Yeah, roughly $3.5 million of our money that we give to the government decided to spend it to take away our free speech. And much like the voting issue, I'm not going to shut up on this. And I think I'm going to mention it in every episode until people around us wake up. You know, the FBI isn't for us anymore.
No.
And I mean, obviously, I would have made the argument that they weren't for us for a long time, likely since their inception. But they definitely don't serve the people anymore, just like the IRS doesn't serve the people and the CIA doesn't serve the people.
Right. Well, they're starting to sound a lot like an organization that we've all heard of, at least most of us have.
Oh, yeah.
NKVD, KGB,
Yeah. Yeah, they're
Blue
sounding
Hats.
they're sounding extremely similar to those organizations. And you know, the more and more we dig, the more things are starting to get revealed. And I know there's some old conspiracy theorists that are walking around now saying, "I've told you so for the last 60 years," you know. But, you know, it's a lot of this stuff is coming to light, coming out that it's true. And, you know, one of those things is the information surrounding the Kennedy assassination. It was Daily Wire recently released some information that the CIA was likely involved in the assassination of President Kennedy.
Allegedly.
And same thing, Tucker also had another episode on his show where he was talking about the ways that the CIA was involved in the assassination of President Kennedy.
Allegedly.
And it's just becoming more and more obvious of this kind of shadow government that seems to be controlling what's going on around us.
Yeah. It's disheartening.
Yeah.
It really is. The more that this Pandora's box is being ripped open. Now, let's not say that this is, I mean, it's sad and depressing in some cases, but also, what if the box was never opened? I mean,
Yeah.
we just had the blinders on and we were all living in, with rose-colored glasses and, maybe prices went up a little bit, for food and gas. But I mean, overall, you still get to go home. You still get to sit down on the couch and watch Netflix and watch your shows and then go to work and, just things like that. And then all of a sudden the next day, the hammer's down and we're, 1917 Russia.
Yeah. And it's really funny because I see what you're saying there, and I would rather it be the way it is.
Yeah,
even though it sucks.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating. It's extremely frustrating, boy. But all this means for me is that we're going in a direction that has an ending that I'm looking forward to. Yeah,
and I am too. And I mean that what that also shows is that this Pandora's box is opening. That this dark underbelly, this soft underbelly is being shown. The dark side of all this is that there are people that still care.
Yeah.
There are true American patriots that are like, no, this is not the way this is supposed to be. This is not the way this is supposed to go. Like, this, and it's also been being said by Charlie Kirk. This country is not a democracy.
Yeah.
It's a constitutional republic. But you hear all the time, this is dangerous for our democracy. This is dangerous for our democracy. That's dangerous for our democracy. Democracy. But it's not.
Yeah. It's never
But
been.
they're trying to push it that way so that it becomes easier to become a dictatorship.
Yeah, and speaking of conspiracy theorists, I don't know if you knew this, but that you probably did know this because you like historical research and things. But people listening, the term conspiracy theory was popularized by the media after the Kennedy assassination, when there were people in the public, the general public, that were disagreeing with what came out in the Warren Commission.
Mm-hmm.
And those people
they had to stifle it
as
quickly as possible.
Yeah, and those people were labeled, anyone that had any kind of disagreement with what came out in the Warren Commission, those people were labeled conspiracy theorists. So it's the anniversary of the term conspiracy theorist, is that it came all from that. And from there, things started to get a little fishy. After after the issues that we had with stuff in the Warren Commission. There were a lot of questions that were being asked around those times. And there were a lot of things that happened. Now, what happened is the government made an agreement that they were going to release certain documents that were kept secret at the time so many years later. And these documents were supposed to be released this year in 2022. And what happened is our government now and the current administration decided that they're not going to release all that information that was supposed to be released. They released some of it. They released all the inconsequential stuff, but stuff that would have made a difference in what people think or was actual proof in any way, shape, or form that the CIA was involved, they did not release it. They decided to not say anything about it. And that's problematic because that defines for me that they're still continuing to hide something. When it comes to this issue, there's one of two options. The government was involved and they're trying to hide it, or they weren't involved. And with one of those two options, if the government was involved, then just tell us. If the government wasn't involved, just tell us what happened. It's not a matter of national security anymore.
Well, I think it's almost an internal national security.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's an internal national security because the government was involved. That's why they're hiding it. Mm-hmm. They don't want to blow the lid off it completely because they know it'll be absolute proof of some kind of underground ridiculousness that's going on in our government. It's problematic. I mean, in these new reports that were released by Daily Wire and Tucker, it was shown that there was, I don't know if you knew this, but so what happened in the situation is the guy who shot JFK, Lee Harvey Oswald, was actually involved in a CIA secret operation 3 months prior to the assassination of JFK. And so it's really interesting that he was working with the CIA prior to his assassination attempt of the president. My opinion, and this is just an opinion, I don't have any fact to back this up, but my opinion is that secret operation that he was working with the CIA on might have been like a lowdown or a training on what he's going to be doing here in the future shortly.
Allegedly.
But that's just my opinion. We don't know for certain.
Right. We probably never will.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of BA that he was a Marine and was able to, with a Carcano, snag the shots that he was able to snag on a moving target from so far. But yeah, that's for some reason, whatever reason, that's a Marine Corps claim to fame.
Yeah, that doesn't seem very nice.
Is that he was
nice of a claim to fame? Yeah.
Yeah, is because he was a Marine, he was able to score those shots. So that's one thing that happened. Another thing that happened is once he was captured, that Warren Commission said, "Oh, it was a lone gunman. It's Lee Harvey Oswald. He's the lone gunman," and they took him into custody. And when they were transporting him, there was another lone gunman that came out of nowhere. Happened to know where they were transporting him, when they were transporting him, where he was going to be. And that's Jack Ruby. Jack Ruby was able to walk up and kill Lee Harvey Oswald right away. And nope, there goes one loose end.
Yeah.
Lee Harvey Oswald, he's gone. And then
can't testify ever.
Yeah, can't testify, not going to be tried. He's wiped out. And then so they arrested Jack Ruby. Jack Ruby was thrown in jail for murdering Lee Harvey Oswald. And while he was in prison, there was a psychologist that came and talked to him that worked for the CIA. And after speaking with him, claimed that Jack Ruby was crazy, that he was, basically a lunatic, and that there's a lot of things wrong with him. So it was just a story. And this is the narrative that they wove after that was, it just so happened to be another crazy person came out and wiped out the assassin that killed the president. And that's just how it happened to be. It's all just one big coinky dink. well, I guess the story's over. Don't have to investigate it anymore.
Right.
And that's how things broke down. And that's what comes through in the report from the Daily Wire. All these papers and these stories have been hidden by leaders of the CIA ever since. They were supposed to be released recently, like we were just saying, from the president. They decided to keep things covered up. And the CIA has known the answers to all these questions that the American public has. And that's not just the Democrats that have been hiding this kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's the whole government. Anybody in a position of power.
Yeah, and that's why I hate it when conservatives are all like huge fans of Mike Pompeo. And I'm like, guys, Pompeo was the leader of the CIA under Trump. Sure, he was a Trump pick, but you can't trust him either. He was also hiding all this information. If he really wanted it to get out, and if he was such an ally, he would have released all this information.
Right.
But no, he kept it all under wraps to save his hide too. If they released any of this information, the whole system's going to break down. No one's going to trust the CIA.
No, I don't think anybody really does trust the CIA anyway.
Right.
Regardless.
Well, that's part of the reason why I think it's not a bad idea to just release the information. I think there's enough people in the general public that you can't trust those people. What are you talking about? So I don't think it would be a huge revolution if they did release it.
No, it wouldn't. And I don't think really much would change. It would just solidify beliefs for sure.
Yeah.
But, there's probably that belief within the CIA that it's like, oh, if we release this, then we could really stir up some actual zealots.
Yeah.
And that is probably what they're trying to avoid.
Yeah. But that's the problem. Like, isn't that, they should be scared of that. That's how it's supposed to work in this country. That's why we have a Second Amendment. If tyranny is happening and, we as the people should be standing up and taking care of it. Yeah, I'm not saying that we need to go out and start killing people. What I'm saying is that where's the line?
Yeah, and that's the thing is like, where is the line? And we've asked this question before: is where is the line that when it comes to, sad to say it, violence or an actual action?
Yeah, I'm just not sure, and
I'm not inciting violence. I'm not advocating that. Let me be clear.
Yeah, neither one of us are.
Yeah, it's the last thing I want to see is any sort of bloodshed on any side.
Right. And granted, we already know, chances are whoever's already listening has been listening to whatever shows we've put up. Yeah, we don't want to see it get bad. But what do you expect when you keep trouncing on people's rights and giving the American public, the
runaround?
The runaround, yeah. That's what I was trying to think of.
And I think that they sometimes are trying to push people's button to that point of making them become violent, and then they're like, see, these people were violent all along,
Right. And when that happens, that's just another excuse for them to take away rights.
Yeah.
And that's what other people always start saying about all these false flag operations. They keep saying it's false flag, and they're using these false flag operations to take away rights. Now, I don't necessarily think that all these incidences that the people are claiming are false flags. It's possible, but chances are it's not likely. I think they're real incidences, but they may be real incidences that were spurred by government interventions, like we just saw with the Whitmer abduction plot. And how of the 13 guys that they pulled in, 2 of them weren't FBI informants.
Yeah.
Like government, figure yourself out. They're looking for reasons to pull average American citizens into trouble.
Yeah. And it's the same thing, like go back into, Ruby Ridge.
Yeah. I just watched those videos too of them killing that guy on the road after. It's
Yep.
intense. And of course, I couldn't find. It took me at least an hour to try to find those videos to watch them.
Same thing with Waco.
Yeah. Yeah, because all that stuff is buried.
Yeah, but
And-
specifically Ruby Ridge was the guy was basically coerced to sell some illegally modified weapons to an FBI informant.
Yeah.
So it was government coercion, essentially, by an FBI agent.
You know, and the government's not helping itself here by hiding things, continuing to hide things, and it's completely obvious hiding.
Yeah.
They need to come clean.
Oh, the situation is unraveling very fast, and I
Yeah.
guess we're just along for the ride, honestly.
Yeah,
and the only thing we could really do is just take care of our immediate family and ourselves, and just keep going.
Yeah, and you know, for me, I think it's just a waiting game. I think it's waiting because eventually, what's going to happen is it's going to continue, and eventually, people are going to crack. People are going to crack. People are going to start forming militias. People are going to start doing things, and then the whole system's going to kind of turn into a house of cards and start to fall apart from there. And then I think that's just when we, as you know, true patriots, just need to be ready at that point. You know, have a head on a swivel, stay close to God, stay close to your family, and just be ready and be prepared for that situation. That's all you can do.
Mm-hmm.
So, what did you have for us?
Yes, what I've got for you today is: did you know that exercising has roots of white supremacy?
No.
Yeah, apparently it does.
Didn't know that.
So, Time Magazine came out with an article, and it was titled "The White Supremacist Origins of Exercise and 6 Other Surprising Facts About the History of U.S. Physical Fitness."
Facts.
Yes.
Oh boy, we're getting more facts
Facts.
today. From
Yep.
who?
Time Magazine.
Oh
Yeah.
boy, I like Time Magazine facts. Those are some pretty factual facts.
And this was based on a book. Basically, it was an article based on a book by Natalia Melman, Petrozella, called "Fit Nation: The Gains and Pains of America's Exercise Obsession." And Time Magazine was incessantly mocked. There was a bunch of Twitter posts and different things like that.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, 2022 isn't quite over yet. The journalists, quote unquote, still have new narratives up their sleeves. We all know that only Nazis work out, of course. And then somebody posted, "First math was a tool of white supremacy. Now it's exercise. Pretty soon food's going to be the tool to continue systemic racism oppression." There was just... I typed in gyms near me, and my God, Boulder, Colorado is a hub of Nazi meeting places.
Wow.
It's just people mocking Time Magazine incessantly. But basically what was outlined was that the premise of the article was that it started in the, I think, the late 1800s or 1900s. I would have to double check that again, but that white women needed to exercise to make sure that their children and their babies were as healthy as possible and were able to, survive longer. And that was, of course, when birth rates were pretty low due to, early infant deaths or in utero deaths. So apparently, since it wasn't for all women, it was just specifically directed at white women, that somehow exercise is systemically racist. And then to spin off that a little bit, I found another article on clubindustry.com, and their title of that was "Hear Our Voices: The Impact of Systemic Racism on the Fitness Industry." And the first couple quotes are, or the first part of this article is, quote, "Imagine a world where you are a health club member paying for amenities such as shampoo in your locker room, but the shampoo provided doesn't work for your hair type. Imagine ensuring you have your membership card on you at all times while in your gym because more than once you have been asked by staff to prove you're a member. Imagine going for your outdoor run each day by first ensuring your clothes are brightly colored and unmistakably running clothes while bracing yourself for a possible stop by a police officer to ask where you live and what you are doing. Imagine not hitting your goal as a trainer for the month and being told you need to work harder, while another trainer who also did not meet goal is given more training and a mentor. Imagine buying a gym and finding out that the landlord gave a better deal and more assistance for renovations to the former owners than he did to you. Millions of Americans don't have to imagine these scenarios because these scenarios are their reality. There's an awful lot of imagining going on there.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's all hypotheticals.
Mm-hmm.
And
Now,
yeah, I'm sure that they have happened, but this is getting the reader worked up.
right, yeah, it's an emotional game that they're playing. And the problem is that sure, some of those situations have happened, and having worked in a gym before myself, I've done some of those things to some of the people that were in my gym. I had to ask them, hey, are you, because we were in San Diego, Southern California, and there's a huge homelessness problem down there. And I've seen in other gyms where people would go in, and this would happen in local businesses as well. Homeless people would go in there, pick a stall in the bathroom, and stay in there all day long, and they have to get police to remove them from the bathroom. It happened in the Target that was, across or near where I lived all the time. They always had to remove homeless people from the restrooms because they're taking up all the stalls and no one can go to the bathroom.
Right. So the ID check is valid.
Yeah.
Or at least the membership check is valid.
Yeah, because how else are you supposed to decipher whether or not someone's supposed to be there?
Yeah, that's kind of the point of a membership ID, or at least a membership tag. Yeah, they're like I said, they're really just driving the emotional point there. Yeah.
They're just you're trying to find things to complain about and then connect it to, because it's the color of your skin or your ethnicity.
Right.
When it's stuff that happens to everybody. I mean, I've been asked multiple occasions at the purple and yellow place. I forget what
Planet
it is.
Fitness.
Planet Fitness.
Yeah.
I've been asked are you supposed to be here? Or do you have a membership card? Or, things like that.
Yeah.
Everyone gets asked those questions. It's not just you.
Right. And I mean, the whole shampoo thing, I mean, that's probably happened maybe a dozen times over the nation, maybe. I don't know. I'm not trying to, speculate on how many times it's happened, but, you pay, if you're a health club member and you're paying, right? And you're paying to get shampoo. Okay. Then you say, I need this special shampoo.
Yeah.
Okay, ma'am, sir, or whatever. That's gonna be a little bit more money here, because it's a specialty thing, and only you're really gonna be using it, and nobody else is, and it's a little more expensive. Or we can waive you a little bit of price, and you can bring your own. I mean, how picky are you going to be? Like, or picky is the wrong word. If you need a specific shampoo, fine,
Right.
but don't expect them to know.
Yeah, it's just like the kid at the summer camp that has dietary restrictions.
Right.
And he's the one kid of 600 kids that are at the summer camp that week that's gluten intolerant or wheat intolerant. The whole campground isn't going to make a gluten intolerant meal for that one kid.
Yeah.
That's something that the camp goes to the parent and says, hey, since your child is the only child with this problem out of the 600 other kids here,
Yeah, I mean, we have things to eat for him, but as far as other things, you're going to have to provide.
right. You have to come up with whatever food he's able to eat if he has major dietary restrictions.
Yeah. Imagine not hitting your goal as a trainer for the month and being told you need to work harder, while another trainer who also did not meet goal is given more training and a mentor. That was the whole quote there. Well,
Isn't more training work harder?
pretty much, yeah. More
Yeah,
training
that's what
and a
I'm
mentor. Okay, so he's getting a mentor to help him out. So without saying that the other person who got a more training and a mentor is white, they're pretty much implying that.
Right.
Yeah, I now I'm not in the fitness game, and I'm not a trainer, but come on.
Yeah. These are a lot of these. You're looking for something to complain about.
Sure.
If you're butthurt about how a gym treats you, go find a gym that's right for you. There are hundreds, if not thousands, if not tens of thousands of, and I don't think it should have to get to this point. There are plenty of gyms owned by all kinds of people.
Sure.
If you don't think that your people, if you don't think that your people are being catered to at some particular gym, go find one where you are. I don't think you should have to. I think as a grown adult and not a child, that you'd be able to suck it up and say, yeah, I'm going to work out at this gym. I don't care if they don't have this particular shampoo, I'll bring it with me. You know, when I worked at the gym that I worked at, I didn't like how everything was. There were things that I might have wanted to see at the gym, and so what? It was the best gym in the area. What am I going to do about it?
Yeah. Well, you're going to love this next part.
Yeah.
Quote, for generations, the people who have set up the systems, laws, and businesses in America have been white men. So it's no wonder that their needs and beliefs are considered the norm. Ignorance or the lack of concern about the needs of people of color have led to a feeling of otherness for many people of color. When that otherness is baked into systems, it can be difficult to break unless business owners and politicians make a concerted effort to understand and change those systems.
It's not otherness. That's like the problem with this is they believe that these issues that they're having are only issues that they have.
And yes, this can be something as seemingly innocent as carrying Suave shampoo, but not Shea Moisturize in your locker rooms. It can be something as racist as buying into the stereotype that your black trainers don't meet their goals due to laziness, while your white trainers don't meet their goals because they just need a little more guidance. Sometimes the systemic racism leads to even more serious consequences.
I've never seen. I've personally, and I've been around a lot of gyms. I've never seen a black physical trainer that isn't setting the bar in fitness. Yeah. Not only not accomplished or missing goal, I've never seen one that has not been absolutely crushing it at the gym.
For sure.
Not everywhere I've been, and I've been in gyms all over the world, specifically according to this example, black folks have always been the absolute peak of fitness in the gym.
Yeah, those who are into fitness, for absolutely sure, they are above and beyond. I mean, there were guys that I was in the Army with that were of color, and I could not keep up with them, period.
You couldn't even dream of touching the ability and the skill and the talent. So it's a miss to me that there are black physical trainers that are getting treated poorly in gyms all across America because they're not accomplishing goals well.
Yeah.
I
don't think that's happening. If it has, it's a very isolated incident.
Yeah, it's got to be, and that's the problem, is that in these situations they take anecdotal evidence and treat it as if that anecdotal evidence is fact across the wide spectrum.
Right. And it's just not.
It's just not the case.
Yeah.
There very well may have been these situations in onesies and twosies, but that's not the vast majority.
Yeah, the one thing it's like, and yes, this can be something as seemingly innocent as carrying Suave shampoo, but not Shea moisturizer. Who cares?
Yeah.
Why? Like, if you need Shea moisturizer, bring it. I mean, Suave. The reason they stock Suave is probably because it's the cheapest on the market. Honestly.
Yeah. And guess what? I don't think anyone cares. I don't know of one person that goes, "Oh, praise the heavens above that my gym has Suave shampoo."
Yeah. Geez, I'm really an Irish Spring guy.
Yeah, right.
Why am I, having to use Dial? Like, why are they bringing Dial soap in here? It's just,
Right.
yeah.
And if anyone has a problem with the soap, just like everybody else that goes to the gym, they're going to bring their own and shut up.
Yeah. But I think we've beat that horse to death and then some.
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
beat it to death.
Yeah. And so we've kind of covered that. It's just another example of just how crazy this place is going.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just continue to get worse. There's one last thing we're going to get to in this show, and that is what grinds Rob's gears. Because you guys have gotten the ability to listen to me not really rage throughout this show, but vent, because I've been building it up the last couple weeks. Here is what is going to grind Rob's gears.
Oh, boy.
Recently, there was some... Now, the post or the article was created by Stanford University, and it's called the Elimination of Harmful Language Initiative. And this is a memo that was released to their IT community, and it was only supposed to be released to their IT community. Well, it leaked out, and these were rules that were established by the IT community at the school, and it was kind of a standard of what was going to be allowed to be visible on the school's website or things like that. If any of these standards were messed up, whoever posted it or whoever created the article or things like that would have to change it in order to fit with this elimination of harmful language initiative. Oh yeah, it says it was started, like this action was prioritized initially in December 2020, but this memo was released on 12/19/22 at 2:14 p.m. And this is what kind of language is harmful and needs to be eliminated from the IT realm of their thing. It says the goal of the Elimination of Harmful Language Initiative is to eliminate many forms of harmful language, including racist, violent, and biased language in Stanford websites and code. So, some of this language, and this is a list of things that cannot be said or typed out online or included in coding or anything like that. So these are some of the categories. One of the categories is ableism. Ableist language is language that's offensive to people who live with disabilities and devalues people who live with disabilities. You cannot use, like it says, the unintentional use of such terms furthers the belief that people who live with disabilities are abnormal. So words under that fall under ableism that cannot be used are words like addict, addicted, basket case, blind review, blind study, committed suicide, confined to a wheelchair, crazy, cripple or crippled, dumb. You cannot use the term handicap parking. You can't say handicapped. You can't say handicapped space. You can't say insane, lame, mentally ill, OCD, paraplegic, quadriplegic. You can't say sanity check. You can't say spaz. You can't say, oh, hey, we're going to have a stand-up meeting, which is like a quick meeting. You can't say walk-in, like if it's like a walk-in office. And you can't use wheelchair. You can't say wheelchair bound or tone deaf. So these are all words or terms that you can't use online on like Stanford websites or anything like that. They had to wipe these off.
Scrub them.
Yes. So say if you're gonna describe, if you're posting, say you're posting an article of a scientific blind study that was done on a certain type of medication, or there was a blind review done of a particular product or something like that, and there's an article being written on the website. They can't use blind review. They have to say anonymous review. They can't use blind study.
Yeah.
They have to say masked study because it's an unintentional, and according to this, it says it unintentionally perpetuates the disability that it is somehow abnormal or negative to be blind.
So what about people who wear masks, or when they think of wearing masks, they become traumatized because they feel claustrophobic?
No, you can't. That doesn't count.
Well, it's going.
It's not
to,
a real
'cause
feeling.
It's Nope.
Nope.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm playing the game.
I know.
Another one is ageism. No, ageism can be used online, which is singling out a person based on their age. So you can't say someone's senile. You can't call someone who's older a gray beard. Colonialism. Anything that has to deal with colonialism can't be used. And here's another one, culturally appropriative.
How about Stanford University just not use any words on any of their sites and just shut it down?
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, Stanford shouldn't exist.
Yeah, just shut it down. I mean, we're not. Yeah, so it's only a matter of time before it becomes. It's only a matter of time before it becomes. Oh well, we can't speak these in any sort of fashion on Stanford property.
And exactly, and that's the thing. That's to where I'm getting at, because they're not only in this listing are they giving you what you can't say. They're giving, like in 1984, they're giving you the new speak too.
Right. Yeah. So, and then, but you're gonna have to, like, somebody's gonna be talking in a conversation or giving a lecture at Stanford, and they're gonna have to like stop in the middle of talking and be like, "Oh, geez, I was gonna use this word. I was gonna use blind study. Now, what was that word? What was I gonna have to say?" And then if you're in the middle of a conversation and then you say, "Oh yeah, that guy, I met him at McDonald's there, and he just happened to be blind." And oh, you just said the word blind.
Yeah.
Ableist.
Right, exactly. And so like culturally appropriative. You can't describe something as brave. It says this term perpetuates a stereotype of the noble, courageous savage, equating to indigenous male as being less than a man. You can't use the term bury the hatchet. Instead of saying bury the hatchet, say call for peace or call a truce. You can't, grab everybody and say, "Hey, chief," or type in something like that. And you can't it says calling a non-indigenous person chief trivializes both the hereditary and elected chiefs in indigenous communities. You can't call someone a guru. If you're going to say guru, say expert, subject matter expert, or teacher, leader, or guide. If you're going to have a meeting.
I noticed they didn't include rabbi.
Yeah. If you're going to have a meeting in your office, or you're going to send out an all-hands email and say, "Hey, we're going to have a quick powwow in my office," don't say that. Say meeting, or we're going to get together.
If you also say like we're going to have an all-hands meeting, does that mean that that's ableist against people who don't have hands?
Exactly. So just don't say it. Here's another one. Don't use any gender-based language. Don't say chairman or chairwoman, congressman, congresswoman. Don't say fireman, fireman. Don't say freshman. Gentlemen. Don't say "hey guys," or say "hey ladies." Obviously, he, she, it. Don't say landlord or landlady. Don't say man hours. Don't say mankind. Use humankind or people kind. Don't say manpower. Say staffing or workforce.
People kind discriminates against those who are trans species.
Yeah. Don't say transgendered. Say transgender. Because this avoids the connections between being transgender is something that is done to a person as opposed to it's some kind of, or it says, wait a minute. Sorry, these are really badly written. It says this term avoids connections that being transgender is something that is done to a person and or that some kind of transition is required. I don't know. That was very badly written. Anyway. But Stanford. And then it says also you can't use any imprecise language. So
wait, we were just told not to use precise language about certain things and precise wording.
Right.
If a person is a quadriplegic, that means they're not blind.
Right.
Or that they're not
paraplegic.
Paraplegic, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's specific.
Yeah, but you can't use specific language and you can't use imprecise language either. And, because that's just how all of this makes sense. So you can't use words like abort. Don't describe anyone. And then it says imprecise language is terms that this is actually how it is written. It says imprecise language is terms that utilize grammar. What do we need that for? Imprecise language.
Well, they obviously don't want to use words, so why should they use grammar?
Yeah.
Because grammar is
racist. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
You can't, because it discriminates against languages of other people.
Yeah. It says imprecise language is terms that utilize euphemisms, vagueness, or inaccurate words to not say what one is trying to say. Don't call anyone one of the ones you can't say. You can't say American. Consider using U.S. citizen because the term America is actually Americans can be used for people of 42 countries. It says this term often refers to people of the United States only, but and it says thereby insinuating that the U.S. is the most important part or most important country in the Americas, which is actually made up of 42 other countries. You can't say the term child prostitute. You can't say Hispanic. Use the term Latinx, which is really funny. They've done polls and asked people of the Hispanic community if they prefer the term Latinx or if they use the word Latinx. And I'm pretty sure that the polls were like 98% say, no, that's stupid. We hate that. We're Hispanic.
Yeah, they do.
I don't want to live on this planet anymore.
Yeah. If that's your reaction. Yeah, you can't say things like Karen. You can't use Oriental. You can't say peanut gallery. Don't use the term straight, stupid, survivor. You can't use the word thug. Can't use the word victim. You
can't use the word victim.
Yeah.
They're the ones that use that word all the time.
They're not a victim. They're a person, according to this. They're a person who has experienced or a person who has been impacted by. So no use of the word victim.
Really?
And then also no institutionalized racism. So so for example, it says instead of barrio, name the specific neighborhood. So barrio, it says the term typically indicates any socialized, segregated, non-white neighborhood. And so they're saying instead of calling the place the barrio, use the actual name of the location. That would be problematic in San Diego because there's actually a place in San Diego called, and the name of it is Barrio Logan. So I wonder what they're going to do there. That's for the Californians to figure out because they probably support all this mess too. You can't say anything you can't bring a brown bag lunch.
What?
It says the term brown bag is historically associated with the brown paper bag test that certain black sororities and fraternities used to judge skin color. To those skin who was darker than the brown bag were not allowed to join. So, I'll
be honest, that's the first time I've heard of the brown bag test.
Yeah. You can't use the term like grandfathered or grandfather. You can't say master as a verb or as an adjective. You can't say master list. You can't say slave, slave labor, sold down river. You can't say webmaster. You can't say white paper. Yeah, because it says white paper assigns a value of connotations based on color. White equals good. An act which is subconsciously racialized. You can't use the term white team. You can't say white box or white list or white space or yellow team. You can't say disabled person, homeless person, immigrant, prisoner, prostitute. And then also you can't use any violent language. There's another big list. You can't say abusive relationship. You have to say a relationship with an abusive person. You can't say beating a dead horse.
Oh, boy.
You can't say killed it when someone's doing a great job. You have to say they've done a great job. You can't say rule of thumb. It says, although no written record exists today, the phrase is attributed to an old British law that allowed men to beat their wives with sticks no wider than their thumb. So you can't use the term rule of thumb. Can't use the term, get this, trigger warning. Can't use the term trigger warning. The phrase,
They're the ones that came up with it.
Yep. The phrase can cause stress about what's to follow. Additionally, one can never know what may or may not trigger a particular person.
The stress about what's to follow? So
Yeah.
you're getting triggered about being triggered.
Yep.
about being triggered.
Yep.
Essentially, it just keeps going back and back and back.
Yeah. You can't tell me that I might get triggered because it brings me to the realization that I might be sensitive and I might get triggered.
Yeah, but then if you don't tell them there's a trigger warning, then and you go in and you tell them, and then that triggers them, then
Yes.
you didn't tell them there was a trigger warning.
They say don't say trigger warning. You have to say content note. Yeah, and so after that, there's just a little bit more stuff here, and there's the final section on the page. It's called additional considerations, and it says that these are terms that don't fit into the other categories, but are still important enough to have attention drawn to them. And so, you can't say African American anymore. They said you're supposed to say black. Because black people who are born in the United States can interpret hyphenating their identity as othering. As many people of the terms we're highlighting, some people do prefer to use or be addressed by this term. So it's best to ask a person which term they prefer to have used when addressing them. When used to refer to a person, the B should always be capitalized. So if you're referring to someone as a black person, if you're typing out the sentence, the B must be capitalized, which has been a total flip-flop from what we grew up learning. We grew up, I mean, at least I grew up learning, you never call someone a black person. They're not black, they're African American. Because back then, African American was the inclusive term.
Yeah, I kind of remember that too. Now it's backwards.
Yeah, now it's backwards. Now African American is considered othering because of the hyphenation. And so they say black now. You have to say black. Can't say circle the wagons.
I'm sorry?
You can't say circle the wagons.
Oh, I heard you. I'm just sorry.
Yeah. Me too. Yeah, you can't say hick, hillbilly, hip hip hooray.
What?
Yeah, can't say hip hip hooray. You have to just say hooray. Because hip hip hooray apparently was a term used by German citizens during the Holocaust as a rallying cry when they wanted to hunt down Jewish citizens.
I don't think that's accurate.
I don't know either. I've never heard that.
I'm not entirely sure, but let's do a bit of research.
Yeah, I've never heard that. You can't say no can do. You have to say I can't do it because the phrase no can do, it says originated from stereotypes of the mocked non-native English speakers. You can't say normal person, and you also can't say submit. When you submit a paper or a term paper, they have to use the word process because depending on the context, the term can imply that other people have power over you.
Jeez.
So, I mean, there's probably about 50 words I didn't even touch. Like gyp, if someone gypped you.
Probably because that goes back to gypsy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And can't say hold down the fort because it says this phrase stems from settlers and soldiers resisting savages when on the warpath. Yeah. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff.
It's out of control.
Yeah. But, this is according to Stanford, things that you cannot say. And you know what? I say good for them. I say Stanford can keep all their dumb shenanigans and their language barriers. And, hey, if you don't want your kid to grow up with free speech or live in a world with free speech, send them to Stanford so they can get brainwashed. And you deserve every bit of the education that they get and that they're going to come home with. That's my view.
Paying to be de-educated.
Yeah.
You know, if kids go into this society, like this, and let's just say this works its way down into, elementary school, kindergarten, which it inevitably will, if not already has. It's just going to get, life for these people is going to get really tough. Really tough. They're just going to be, and what it is they're just getting controlled really easy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's what it is.
It's a
all
huge
the
mind
power
game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mind game, power game. And I think this is all just people giving up freedoms.
Yeah. There will always be rulers. There will always be subjects. People will always be submitting to a higher authority.
Yeah.
I think we're all created equal, but equality of outcome is just not possible.
Yeah.
And the equality of position in life and having equal amounts of things and money and different and food, and it's not possible.
Yeah. I don't really think it is either.
And honestly, the people that say that it is are probably full of themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, we could go in depth on that more, but that you're right. That really did grind my gears.
Yep. I figured it would work. I did my homework on finding something. But that is all I have for today.
Same here. And we hope to get another episode out here pretty soon as well. So we hope to be recording episode 9 maybe in another week or so.
Yeah. Or maybe even sooner. I'm going to try to bust out this episode and get going.
Cool.
So,
and we'll be looking forward to talking to you all again, and I'm just sharing with you what's going on. And yeah.
Yep, that's it. And if I had to kind of give a closer on this episode today, I think I would say to just be prepared. I think that's actually kind of been like the general synopsis of all the closing things that we've done.
Yeah, just be prepared for the worst, or not even maybe. I don't think we're going to be seeing the worst that rapidly.
Yeah,
maybe 5 years, something like that. But
I think it's just important to be ready for whatever might come around. Can't hurt to be ready.
True.
But
but we appreciate your listenership.
Absolutely.
Until next time, God bless
America.
Go and tell that long-tongued liar. Go and tell that midnight rider. Tell the rambler, the gambler, the backbiter. Tell him that God's gonna cut him down. Tell him that God's gonna cut him down.